future is now.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this podcast episode of Next Now. And it has been a busy summer. If you're listening, these are fall episodes for the Next Now podcast. And it has been a busy summer on many levels. I've talked to many clients who, between vacation, between life just happening, between workloads increasing, there's a lot going on. And so, wanting to talk about a number of things in the podcast, but this specific episode, I want to talk about the need for novelty, not just for us as individuals, but even within a team. And what do I mean by that? Well, how many of us can get caught in patterns or stuck in homeostasis, if you will? In other words, we keep doing the same things over and over again, almost like Groundhog Day, right? We get up, we get dressed, we go to work. We get up, we get dressed, we go to work. And research has found that if we do not have novelty, if we do not introduce novelty, people can become disengaged quite quickly. So even think about yourself. If you're doing the same thing over and over again and you don't have novelty, and for some people have a higher need for like daily novelty. Other people have need for maybe weekly novelty. Others might have need for monthly novelty. And by novelty, I mean doing something new or different that gets us out of that grind, or that gets us away from feeling like we're just going through the motions, or from a team perspective, or that we're literally being taken for granted. And this comes up to me because I had a call with a client recently where he was describing his team and how all of a sudden someone was not happy on the team. And my question to him is, well, have you been doing your regular one-on-ones? Because for those of you that follow me and listen to me, you know that as a leadership expert, I believe that communication is a critical component of making sure we keep people engaged. And having regular one-on-ones with people is a communication pattern that is very important to make sure we're consistently communicating. And when I say communicating, we're not just going, hey, how you doing? It's more meaningful. It's a crucial conversation. We're asking, are you still engaged? We're overtly asking, what do you need? How can I support you? How are you doing right now? What are your struggles? What are your challenges? What's working? It's basically a true one-on-one where we're wanting to know exactly what's going on. If you're doing those consistently, then you wouldn't have the situation like my client did, where all of a sudden he has this unhappy employee. And when I asked him about the one-on-ones, he admitted that he hadn't been doing that consistently, that he'd kind of fallen off. We're all human. We are going to fall off of these things. But that's kind of, for me, again, as a coach looking for patterns, it's like I'm looking for the patterns of consistent communication. I'm looking for the patterns to show why something is occurring. So in this case, dissatisfied employee has occurred because of a lack of novelty. Because as I continued to ask the client more questions, he said, we've been going through this major project. It's been a very intensive project. This person has been doing the same sort of job every day, but there's been no time for discussion around career mapping. There was no discussions around succession. There was no discussions about where is this all leading to. So eventually the employee came to this person and said, I'm unhappy. I'm looking at other opportunities. Now, as a leader, we never want to have that happen because we'll feel almost blindsided. But in many ways, if we're introducing novelty or if we're consistent in our communication, we will minimize that fact of being blindsided. But from a novelty standpoint, if we're not making sure, and this is difficult to do, I acknowledge that, but it's really important as a leader to be thinking of our team members not as people that are just doing tasks for us, but these are human beings having human experiences. They are more than their job. They have a life. They have people in their life. They have circumstances that might be exhilarating, but also exhausting. They might have challenging situations and circumstances. And I think as a leader, and I've said this often before, we have to be psychologists. We have to understand people and their motivations. We have to realize that it's important to have novelty. And even for ourselves individually, if you're not having novelty, in other words, maybe it's as simple as breaking up your day by going for a walk in nature, or maybe novelty is you're going to, listen to an audio of something that you might not necessarily listen to, or you're going to take a course, or you're going to listen to a motivational speaker, or you're going to something that injects energy and difference is going to help keep ourselves engaged. But then we also want to use those same strategies to leverage engagement with our teams. So some ideas for novelty that you can think of is, on a weekly basis, you can throw some games in. If you have a hybrid team where part of your team is in office and part is remote, you can do some hybrid games through Zoom or through Teams. There's a whole bunch of games out there. You could keep it as simple as two truths and a lie. You could keep it as simple as playing a game of tic-tac-toe virtually. There's a lot of things, but what we want to do is include novelty so that we're shaking things up a little bit. Especially now, I think with remote work, with hybrid, with a lot of companies talking about having more people back in the office, the risk here around all types of work is that we're taking our people for granted, that we're not recognizing their importance to us. And novelty can also be having those, heart-to-heart conversations. Like, it's very refreshing for a worker to have a leader who can have those crucial conversations around life. And sometimes novelty is where you're sharing your vulnerability as a leader to say, here's what I'm struggling with, or here's what I'm learning, or here's where I'm going to get resources and help. So I want you to think of novelty as introducing something that's new and vibrant and increases engagement, increases dialogue, increases that sense of being alive. And so for yourself, my call to action for you is, what's some novelty that you can add to your days or your week? And then the next level ask from you is, how can we introduce novelty to our teams? Is that an activity? Is it upping the content or the quality of our one-on-one conversations? Is it having the team, interact with each other as buddies more frequently, or more peer support? There's more there, and I'll share it on future episodes. But I really wanted this podcast to give you energy and insight and thinking around novelty and the importance of that for us individually and for our teams, feeling alive, feeling engaged, feeling part of something more than just the mundaneness of doing tasks and doing the repetitive things that work sometimes requires us to do. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.